Well, a good Thursday afternoon to you, Central Georgia. Obviously getting closer and closer to the potential chance for our winter weather as we head into tomorrow morning. So I'm coming to you live right now here at 11 a.m. with the latest updates that we have according to model data, according to what we're seeing with ice accumulations, and all of the watches and warnings that we do have in place as of right now. So I'm going to throw a lot of information at you, and then I'll open it up for questions. Probably around maybe about 10-15 minutes, depending on how long it takes me to get through these graphics. But I will be on here for about 30-35 minutes or so before I have to get ready for the midday show and do the forecast on air. But here's how we stand as of right now, and I want to go ahead and preface it. There is not much change with this forecast. It is predominantly the same thing that we have been saying for about the past day or two here in Central Georgia. It really looks like we have a good chance at seeing a winter weather type precipitation once we go into the morning hours, the very early morning hours rather at that, maybe a few hours before sunrise, and then it's going to lead the way into a very cold rain here in Central Georgia. So let me take this full screen. I've gone ahead and made a graphic like this and kind of just outlining the general areas that we're looking at being at risk of which impacts. So you'll see areas here in the bottom, and this is going to include most of Central Georgia. This was updated as of this morning. A brief mix in the morning and then leading the way into a cold rain is still what we're forecasting for almost all of Central Georgia. But now we take it up into this pink sector, and you can see this includes areas like Atlanta, Covington, Athens, McDonough, but it also starts to stretch into our northern row of counties here in Central Georgia: Jasper County, Putnam County, Hancock County, over to Monroe County. Those areas, you're going to have a greater chance of seeing more winter weather impacts, maybe possibly some ice accumulation, which I'll get into in just a second, in our northernmost corridor here in Central Georgia. So in that pink area, we're looking at that consistent and constant mix of not only snow, but the sleet, the freezing rain, and maybe even just a little bit of rain. It's going to be a good mix of all four of those forms of precipitation. And that's where we're really looking at probably the heaviest impacts here in the state of Georgia, because we'll take it up to North Georgia, and this includes northern Alabama up into Tennessee, North Carolina and such. We're looking at a good amount of snow, not lots of snow. The recent trend that I've seen up there in those areas is that the snow chance is kind of going down a little bit in terms of how much will accumulate. We're talking maybe about 3 to 4, maybe 5 to 6 inches in the mountains up there in North Georgia. That's looking like where we're going to see the greatest snow accumulation, but we are continuing to see temperatures trend a little bit warmer with the models, so that's going to create more ice implications in the northern portion of the state. Right now, as it stands, I haven't really made much change to the top of this graphic because we're continuing to really focus on the impacts here in Central Georgia. So now I'm going to take it over to our winter storm watch. So if you tuned into the evening show last night, you probably saw that we did get a couple of counties added to this. We didn't get any changes to it as of this morning, but this winter storm watch is from Friday at 7 a.m. all the way till 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. This watch is for significant snow, sleet, and freezing rain accumulation. So all of those winter weather impacts, and this is county by county here in the state of Georgia. We have 2 counties here in our northern half that are included in this now. That is going to be Jasper and Putnam counties. Now we could see this watch extended a little bit, but since we're getting so close to the event, we're actually looking at possibly the extension of this into a winter weather advisory or a winter storm warning for counties that are further up to the north. So if you do see maybe us talking about some winter weather advisories for possibly Jasper and Putnam County, I want to go ahead and preface that that is an upgrade from this watch. It may not be perceived as that. That was the whole trouble with Snowmageddon about 12 to 13 years ago, that when that watch got upgraded to a warning, many people perceived it as a downgrade. And I don't blame you, because it doesn't necessarily sound as serious as a watch. Advisory maybe is just something, or makes you think that, hey, that's something that maybe you should know, and a watch starts to bring those tools into fruition. But yes, an advisory would be an upgrade from the watch. That means there's more confidence in seeing winter weather impacts in areas that would be in the advisory. So that's something we'll continue to look out for as we go throughout today. And then other counties further to our north, we could see them extended into some kind of watch or advisory as we get closer to this event. And those kind of colors that you see on the left side of your screen, that pink, maybe that blue or purple over in Alabama, that's going to be your advisories and your winter storm warning. So they've already gone ahead and issued those over in Alabama. I imagine the Peachtree City office won't be far behind as we go throughout today in issuing the continuance of those advisories and warnings. All right, so now let's get down to the nitpicky. You want to know the timing of this, especially if you are making your morning commute tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and say no matter where you're traveling here in the entire central Georgia region, you're going to want to express caution no matter what. You want to prepare for the worst, but always hope for the best here. So right now, as it stands, 5 a.m. This is a little bit earlier than what we were seeing from Future View as of yesterday. As you see in the top right, this is our graph model. This is what we show you every single day with looking ahead for the next 3 days. And you'll start to see some wintry precipitation moving in from the west at that 5 a.m. hour. And by the time we get to, say, about 7 a.m., that becomes more widespread here in central Georgia. And you'll see that this is a good mix, or it's even steady snow showers further in our western corridor where this does come in from. And that does make a lot of sense because that is going to be before sunrise, and that is going to be in the nighttime hours when temperatures are their coolest here in central Georgia. So we're looking to start out with some precipitation of the winter form. Even a couple of steady flurry showers are going to be possible, especially the further west that you live in the morning hours. So if you're wanting to go out and take a look at maybe some potential snow showers, you're going to want to probably set your alarm clock and go wake up a little bit early tomorrow. But the consensus continues to be right now this morning, we started to see our temperatures from the morning lows warm up somewhere around 8:30 in the morning. So 9 a.m. right here, just give it 30 minutes to be safe to know that warming is definitely underway. We're not going to see as drastic of a warming, but we are going to look at temperatures to climb above that freezing temperature mark. So you'll start to see those purples, those whites, those pinks getting overtaken by the green, which is going to be your steady rain. But now as we continue about into the midday hour, you'll see Future View does something kind of funny. It starts to take away any of that green color that we see, and it's making the way for just a straight wintry mix here in our northern half in central Georgia. I don't quite think it's going to be a wintry mix. By this time, our temperatures will be maybe even a little bit warmer than what they are at 9 a.m. Not too much above freezing temperature. It's still going to be cold out. I want to go ahead and preface that. But I do believe they're not going to be conducive enough to allow anything to stick at the ground. So 32 degrees and below, that's when you really have the accumulations of the winter weather impacts. It can snow, you can have winter precipitation when it's slightly above 32 degrees, but nothing's going to stick if that surface temperature is above 32 degrees. It's going to cause it to steadily melt. So I do believe this is going to be more of a steady rain as we go up throughout the noon window here in central Georgia. And then you'll see we actually might get a brief break from about 1 to 2 o'clock from any precipitation whatsoever, which would be fairly nice to allow for accumulations of things such as ice and anything of the frozen nature. And now we head into Friday afternoon. This is 4 p.m. Just mostly rain here in central Georgia, and that is the way it is going to end off Friday evening. The rain will scatter about as we go into the evening hours just past dinner time on Friday. And then this system looks to move out as we go overnight into Saturday. But I want to note what happens right here at Saturday morning. You can see maybe a couple of brief white dots popping up on our Future View map, mainly to the north and the northwest of us. But cloud cover looks to hang around into the morning hours, so this might allow for a little more time needed in order to melt maybe some ice accumulations further up to the north. So maybe you have plans with your family going up to Atlanta for the weekend tomorrow morning and you think you're all good, all of the rain, all the frozen precipitation has moved out. Well, it's obviously going to take some time in order for that frozen precipitation to melt further to the north. So you definitely still want to be cautious on your way up or traveling further to the north if you are going anywhere on Saturday morning. But the good news is this cloud cover should be pretty short-lived because by the time we hit about 1, 2 in the afternoon, we're looking at clear skies once again, but it's still going to be a fairly chilly day here in central Georgia and the rest of the state. All right, now I'm going to show you this same model run, but now I've zoomed it into central Georgia and I'm showing you the temperatures. Before I get into it, you're going to see these temperatures and obviously you're going to look, are they above 32 degrees or below 32 degrees? The graph is very, very hesitant to get below 30 degrees when it comes to the winter time. It's just something it does. Having forecasted here last winter, I've definitely seen that. So I do believe we might be overshooting the temperatures on this model run right here. Like I said, 5 a.m., I think temperatures are probably going to be more so in the upper 20s rather than the mid 30s here in central Georgia. And that would make a lot of sense according to what the winter precipitation that the graph is initializing right here. 7 a.m., this is approaching the coldest time of the morning. And temperatures are 34, 35, maybe even 37 down in Cordele. Well, that's not going to be suitable for some snow showers or some wintry mix, maybe anything of the freezing rain nature. I do believe that these temperatures are probably going to start warming once we get to 9 a.m. right there. You're seeing some green try to take over, but then the graph really backs off of that, leading to a straight wintry mix. What I do believe is some precipitation could start to fall as the frozen nature. It could start to fall as snowflakes. You might see it falling a little bit slower in the sky. But once it gets closer and closer to that surface temperature, it's going to begin to melt into the liquid form. So like I said, I don't really think that this is an accurate depiction of what's going to happen past 9 a.m. However, in the early morning hours, I do believe it is pretty accurate with us starting out as some kind of winter weather precipitation. And then you can see temperatures all throughout the day. There is not much wavering in these. Somewhere in the mid to upper 30s all day long here in central Georgia. Like I said, it is going to be a cold one. It's still like not even, excuse me. What I'm trying to say is, yes, temperatures are still going to be very cold throughout the day, and obviously a very cold rain would be a better case scenario in terms of the roads and everything being a lot more clear. But we're also dealing with the coldest rain that is possible before it turns into that winter precipitation. So it's still not going to feel very good outside. Tomorrow is going to be a day that you'll want to stay indoors no matter what. And then we go into Saturday morning and temperatures try to cool back down to that freezing temperature mark. Not really seeing that come to fruition on the graph, but once again, the graph likes to overshoot these temperatures for the morning lows. Now let's take a look at the high resolution model. We got this into view yesterday, and this gives us a little bit better of a picture, but this, you can note the timestamp up there. Friday at 2 a.m. it has precipitation starting to move in, and temperatures further to the north are hovering just below freezing temperatures. So that's where you're going to see that winter weather precipitation, areas that are 29, 30, 31 degrees, and areas further to the south, 33 and plus, and that's just looking like a very cold rain. So I think this is a good depiction of kind of the spread that we will see between the cold rain and any of the winter precipitation. The further north you live, that's where we're looking at more of that kind of winter mix start or even some steady snow showers. Now as we go into 8 a.m., you'll still see temperatures hovering above freezing temperature, but it's a good mix, that wintry mix or some rain, maybe some snow further up to the north, but that rain quickly overtakes it once we get into the 12 p.m. window right there, just around lunchtime. Even some temperatures getting up to about 40, 45 degrees here in central Georgia. I don't quite think we'll get that high on the temperature side of things, but if we are, it's going to lead to a little bit more of a pleasant feeling rain rather than being 33 and 34 and raining. So maybe that will be some good news, but I do believe in the HERS representation that this rain is going to overtake any wintry mix that we do have as we head closer to the midday hour. And then once again, on and off rain, some steady showers as we go into Friday evening, maybe a little bit later to leave the picture than the graph model did just show. This is the midnight hour on Saturday. Still, nonetheless, this is going to get out of here as we head into Saturday, and we'll still be left with some cloud cover to start the morning before going into the afternoon, where we're looking at some clearing in the cloud cover. Now I'm going to show you the ice parameter. This is going to show you the ice accumulation. Once again, it remains that any ice accumulation is not going to be here in central Georgia. I will go ahead and say I am not too confident in this actually happening. This ice accumulation is not lining up with the winter precipitation that the graph model does have, and it has been that way for about the last day or so. So I'm not likely to really believe this future view ice accumulation very much. But good news is we have many more models that we can show you. Let's go over to the Euro. This gives you a good timing perspective of everything, but not really the best resolution like the last two I showed you, but still hinting at 5 a.m. starting to see some winter precipitation in central Georgia, and you'll start to see that green color overtake the pink, overtake the purple and the white on the future view model run. And then once again, by 3 p.m. we're left with a very cold rain here in central Georgia, maybe not even just here in central Georgia, maybe up in the Atlanta area as well. And then heading throughout Friday night, that system will exit stage right, and then that will take us on into the end of the weekend. A nice sunny Saturday afternoon looks to be in store, and a nice sunny Sunday looks to be in store, just still going to be on the cooler side. Let's take a look at the ice accumulations with this model run. Everything is further to the north of us, but those pink shaded areas aren't necessarily lining up with those plots that you do see. And I know also 1/10 of an inch, 2/10 of an inch, 3/10 of an inch, it does not seem like a lot, but you don't need much ice to impact everything. Once you get about 1/10 of an inch of ice, that's where you can start to get power line damage, and that's what can create very, very hazardous roads. So once once you get to kind of maybe that 1/10 of an inch mark right there, that's when we're starting to look at ice actually playing a factor into impacting your daily activities, especially being on the roads, could be causing power outages. So right now, as it stands, you can see about 2/10 of an inch there in Eatonton. That's not saying this is going to happen. This is just one individual model run. I think ice totals will be less than that, but areas further to the north have a greater chance of seeing some ice accumulation. Now let's take it over to one last model run, the GFS model. This is our American model, moving in once again around 5 a.m. in our western corridor, mainly west of I-75. Starting out as that wintry mix, maybe a few snow showers in there. And then once we continue about the midday hour, that wintry mix, it looks to be hanging around a little bit longer on the GFS model. But once again, it eventually gets overtaken by that very cold rain, that green color, and leading the way into a rainy end of the day. And the GFS has that cold rain sticking around into Saturday morning. This is the only model I've seen do that. And the cloud cover hangs around a little bit longer into Saturday afternoon as well. Now looking at this ice parameter, and you can see that this does line up a good bit with what it was saying right there in terms of the wintry mix precipitation. That pink color is actually draping down into central Georgia. This is the only model I've seen do that, and it's draping into counties like Monroe County, Jasper, Putnam, Northeast Jones County, Northwest Baldwin County, Northern Hancock County. So like I said, those areas further to the north, you're going to have the greater chance of seeing some ice implications in the forecast, but that's definitely not set in stone. This is the only model run that has any ice accumulation that I have seen down here in central Georgia. So we're going into all of these details. I'm going to put myself back on camera right here because I want to kind of depict some things, do a little hand gesture, maybe help you understand these. So we keep talking about this wintry mix. I'm going to keep hammering this point in because wintry mix is a pretty vague term. What we mean by wintry mix is going to be these two terms right here, freezing rain and sleet. So obviously rain is water that falls from the clouds, and it starts as a liquid and it makes its way all the way to the ground as a liquid. And once it gets to the ground, it still does remain in that liquid form. Freezing rain going to be slightly different. Water is going to fall as a liquid and all the way through the atmosphere. It still remains a liquid, but once it gets to the ground where the ground is pretty cold, that's when we look at that freezing rain to freeze over into solid form. So that's where you have your ice implications, your black ice implications, all of that jazz. And now taking it to sleet, a little bit different than freezing rain, falling as a liquid, but it's just going to start to freeze a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. And it's going to create tiny little ice pellets that are going to hit the ground, and that's going to maybe create a little bit of hazard on the roads. Obviously, it's still frozen precipitation, but it's not sticking to that ground like freezing rain. So freezing rain has more implications than sleet, but sleet is also still going to be possible in that wintry mix category. So then you get on to your snow. On the Future View model, that's what we're showing in those purple and white colors. That is going to be water that starts as a solid and it falls all the way to the ground as a solid. So that's why you're getting, or that's how you get those snow showers. And once again, we're really still looking at that mainly to the north of us. We can't rule out some flurries during the early morning hours the further north you live, and especially over in our western corridor where that precipitation first starts to move in. So right now we have issued our weather impact alert day, just making sure that this is the day that you pay attention to on the 7-day forecast. If you don't take anything away, doesn't matter if you know the weather for today or Saturday or Sunday on into next week, Friday is the day that you need to be informed about. So our impact, that wintry mix is really what we're looking at, trying to monitor possible ice implications for some areas in the far northern tier of central Georgia. That is our impact right there. And what you need to do, and I've continued to say it over the past 2 days, but now it becomes even more crucial. We're less than 24 hours out from this event. You will need to stay up to date with changes, because with winter weather, it's such a difficult forecast because the smallest change in something in the atmosphere or temperature wise can make a world of difference according to what kind of precipitation falls. Obviously, we're hovering right there around freezing temperature, just below, just above. If we see a little fluctuation, maybe 1 or 2 degrees downward in the temperature department, that could lead to more winter weather implications here in central Georgia. If we see the low pressure center of the system track a little bit further to the south, that would bring a little more of that winter weather to our north down into central Georgia. So we can still see some last minute changes changes associated with this system, but it has been very good over the past 2 days or so of remaining consistent with the same belief that it's really going to be a mainly very, very cold rain event here in central Georgia. So that's what we're going to be watching over the next 24 hours, and that's why I'm urging you to stay updated with the latest forecasts. Obviously, if you're tuning in at 5 o'clock tonight and Ben Jones is doing the forecast, my forecast right now is out of date. It's going to change over every couple of hours. We're monitoring how cold will those temperatures be in central Georgia, and when and where will the low pressure system track. So just like I said, if it's a little further south, that's going to bring more winter weather implications into central Georgia. And how cold will those temperatures be? If they're a little bit above freezing, we're looking at possibly more of a wintry mix, more so a cold rain. If we're hovering close to freezing temperature or even below, that's going to have more winter weather implications. And we'll get a very good idea of that as we go throughout tomorrow morning as well. So the big things, what do you need to expect for tomorrow? Well, number one, obviously, if you can be off the roads, it's going to be a wise decision to be off the roads. Even areas in our far south that are only forecasted a very cold rain, areas further to the east, west, wherever you may live here in central Georgia, it's wise to try to avoid the roads, but I know many people still need to go about their days, and areas further down to the south aren't really running any risk of seeing any winter weather implications as it stands right now. But if you are going to be out on the roads, just have extreme caution no matter where you are going. But if you are traveling further to the north, you're definitely going to want to be more cautious, because the further north you go, the messier that conditions will get. So we're looking at those light flurry showers and a wintry mix as we go from about the 5 to 9 a.m. window. Once we get to just past around 8:30, 9 a.m., that's when those temperatures are going to continue to crawl back up above freezing temperature. So a very cold rain for the remainder of the morning, afternoon, and evening. Like I said, past 9 a.m., I think this is going to lead the way into a very cold rain, and temperatures at the surface are going to be high enough above freezing temperature to allow for the melting of anything that does try to stick in the frozen nature on the ground. Ice accumulation chance slightly increased for our northernmost counties. That's Jasper, Putnam, Hancock, Monroe, Jones. Anywhere further to the north here in central Georgia, you have a greater chance of seeing possible ice accumulation, but still, as it stands right now, it's looking like the confidence is fairly low in that. I showed you one model run where the ice was actually accumulating in the shaded areas. We're getting into central Georgia, but I will say Jasper and Putnam, I have seen many interpretations and many guidance graphics by the National Weather Service that even do have a little bit of ice. So obviously the black ice being the concern on the roads and such. Just be cautious on the roads is my best advice that I can give you for that. And also with the timing of this, I have showed you that it's trending more like 5 a.m. We're going to start to see some of that precipitation running into central Georgia. That is very fortunate timing, if you will, because obviously I know it does get into a cold part of the night, and that opens the window a little bit longer for where you can see that winter precipitation. But our morning show will be starting dark and early at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, so I will be able to give you the latest data. So be sure you are checking in on 13 WMAZ tomorrow morning, what our current conditions are, what type of precipitation we're seeing, where is that precipitation. So if you are to have to head out the door on Friday morning, you'll get a good idea of what's actually happening. Maybe we're starting to warm up, we're starting to see more of that mix transition into a rain. It's looking a lot better for you to get out on the roads. So obviously leave it up to your own best judgment, but that is going to be a very good tool to utilize tomorrow, because we're going to be doing a lot of what we call nowcasting, because we have a good idea of what the temperatures will be, and we're still pretty confident in our forecast. But like I said, last minute changes, you can never rule them out with the weather. The atmosphere is always ever changing. So, and once again, the biggest thing I want to emphasize when we get to that watch, if it does get changed into a winter weather advisory, that is going to be an upgrade. I want to stress that, and I will continue to stress that, especially if counties like Jasper and Putnam that are in that watch right now do get put in that advisory. So that will be an upgrade, because that is typically perceived as a downgrade, and I definitely don't want you all thinking like, oh, okay, they're downgrading it, we have less of a chance now. No, that would be more confidence in seeing potential winter weather impacts in those areas. All right, so I'm going to take it over into the comments, and if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask. I know I just threw a lot of information at you, so feel free to ask if you don't feel like you understand something. I can give you an idea about what generally you are going to see, which county you live in, maybe what town you live in, but I will go ahead and say, before asking that, ask yourself where you are on that map. If you're a little bit further north, you're north of I-16, you're around the Macon area, you're north of Macon, you're going to have the greater chances of seeing the wintry mix a little bit longer, some possible slim ice accumulations further up to the north, and the further south, you're really just going to be dealing with a cold rain for most of the day. Let's see. It's going to be wet and cold in Macon, doesn't get snow well. See a flurry and lots of ice, nothing. Okay, that's a lot of words getting thrown at me. But I will say, I know a lot of you probably are hoping for the snow and you want to see some snow. If you do want to see some snow, like I said, set that alarm clock early, because around 5, 6 a.m., I do think we're going to see our fair share of flurries, especially the further north you live here in central Georgia. So make plans to go outside, maybe catch a quick glimpse of that. But after that, it is going to transition into a warmer surface, and that's going to lead to the melting of any frozen precipitation that we may receive early in the morning. The ice is definitely dangerous for school buses. Yes, it definitely is. But like I said, we're only seeing ice maybe move in to the northern corner of our northernmost counties. Most of central Georgia is not looking at any ice accumulations. Obviously, like I said, still changes to be made, and there still can be drastic changes with a weather system like this. But as it continues to stand right now, we're not seeing ice accumulation for most of central Georgia. So hopefully that's going to be good news for kids being able to go to school and such tomorrow. But I'm not the superintendent. I'm not going and telling people to cancel schools. Those people make their best judgment according to the information that I'm messaging. I see a lot of people that are saying they're mainly worried about the ice. Like I said, obviously that is a big concern. When you just get a bunch of snow, obviously it can pose complications on the roads and such, but that ice really just makes it messy. Obviously, it's just causing you to slip around on the roads. Maybe your tires don't have the best traction and such. That ice is really one of the big implications that it can have for the forecast, and it looks like most of that accumulation is going to be to the north of us here in central Georgia, very thankfully. It's going to rain, take the milk back. Yes, I'm not telling you to go raid the grocery store. I've said it yesterday. I've said it the day before. I'm not telling you to go raid the grocery stores whatsoever. The best piece of advice I have for you is just be cautious if you're out on the roads, especially during Friday morning. The ice accumulation estimate has grown and shifted south. Yes, that one model run has shifted a little bit further to the south. Right now, as it stands, the National Weather Service did actually give us an email, just kind of a briefing about where they stand on everything. And they did say that confidence is decreasing for potential weather impacts further down in the southernmost area that they are forecasting in the watch and such. So hopefully that's good news. Confidence decreasing, but we can see that flip right back around in the blink of an eye just like that. So like I said, continue to stay updated. We're here giving you the most up-to-date information as we do get it here on the weather team. So if you are making plans to go out on the roads, like I said, if you want the most up-to-date information, you're going to want to tune in to 13 WMAZ Morning tomorrow for those current conditions, and we can give you a good idea of what's actually happening in the moment. Yes, I see a lot of people asking if it is going to stick and conversing about it. Like I said, once those temperatures get above freezing temperature at the surface, it still may fall as more of a wintry mix, maybe even looking like a little bit of a flurry shower, but the ground is going to be too warm in order to allow for the freezing over and the sticking of that winter precipitation. And we're only going to continue to gradually climb the temperature ladder throughout the day. So that's going to lead to more melting if anything is to try to stick that is frozen. That's why we're not looking at the accumulations of it. It may stick for just a brief moment, but in about an hour or two, it is going to probably melt in nature. But still, that is why I'm telling you to exercise caution on the roads, because you could just run into a small ice puddle that you could be running into, and that's just one of the areas that did decide to freeze over. And you definitely aren't going to see that on an ice accumulation map or such. That's going to be more widespread areas. So local areas could have some tiny ice puddles on the roads and such. So that's why you want to express caution, especially with the black ice and virtually being invisible on some of the roads. I like this one. Your white Christmas you ordered is being delivered tomorrow by FedEx 3 weeks late, and they will be delivering it to the wrong location. That is exactly right there. No snow for once. I was okay with it. I understand. Obviously, when we get this cold, I know everyone here in Central Georgia, we love to see the snow. I'm a local here, so I definitely enjoy seeing the snow as well. But unfortunately, more often than not, it doesn't happen, and I'm not ruling out that it can't happen. Like I said, I still think we'll see a good amount of flurries in the early morning hours, but it's going to be pretty short-lived. So if you're really hoping for the snow, set that alarm clock early to try to get a glimpse of it before it does melt. Let's see. Just ignoring all the comments about buying mass amounts of bread and milk because I already made my point of view clear on that. Just another normal day? Not necessarily a normal day. Either way, you don't see a winter mix here in Central Georgia. You may occasionally see it every couple of years, or people may say, oh, okay, a couple days out, like there's a good chance of snow here, but this isn't every day that you see this type of weather here in Central Georgia. Last winter, we went the whole winter season without even seeing anything remotely close to frozen precipitation here. So, and I know there are many years that we go back to back to back of not seeing any type of even a mix of this winter precipitation. So that's why we're continuing to cover this so much. Make sure that you have all the information that you do need to go about your day, because it's something that we don't experience every single year. In other words, Warner Robins just rain. It does look like further down in Houston County, it's looking more of just a cold rain. You're still going to get your mix more than likely in the early morning hours, but it's still looking to transition into a very cold rain a little bit earlier than areas further up to the north. That's where temperatures a little bit further to the south will be warming up just a tad bit before areas further to the north. What about Cordele? Cordele looking like mostly a cold rain. Still can't rule out that mix early in the morning. But like I said, the further south that you live, it's going to transition into a pretty cold rain a lot quicker than areas further to the north. Baldwin County. Baldwin County is one of those areas farther up in our northern half, and there obviously have been some ice accumulation runs that do have a little bit of ice trying to stretch into Baldwin County. So I would say exercise some more caution in Baldwin County when heading out the door to have any plans on Friday rather than areas further down to the south. So just exercising caution is going to be the best way to really combat this, and obviously probably going to have that wintry mix, maybe even a few flurries, stick around for a little bit longer than areas down to the south that may not see any of that. Monroe County is also one of those areas pretty parallel with Baldwin County. So the northern edge of Baldwin County had some models showing a little bit of ice accumulation, but I don't have much confidence in seeing too much ice accumulation in Monroe County, but you very well could have your small areas where some puddles do freeze over that could create some slim black ice chances. So once again, take it very cautious on the roads. Yeah, and I see a lot of people that very disappointed and such, and like I said, this winter weather, it doesn't happen every day, but also here in Central Georgia, we're in a corner of the country that it's very hard to get this winter precipitation. Obviously, it has happened in bunches before, obviously the blizzards in the past and such, many of you probably remember them, and a lot of features have to come together in order for us to see any type of winter precipitation, especially a lot of that accumulating. We're just in an area of the country surrounded by moisture. We got the Atlantic Ocean to our east, we got the Gulf of Mexico to our southwest, so we're constantly getting some form of moisture here in Central Georgia, causing us to run a little bit warmer. And there's a lot of synoptic features in meteorology going on across the country that I'm continuing to look at, especially where that low is going to track. But looking at millibar maps, seeing where we have something called the 540 line, that's normally the universal snow line for most of the country. But further down in the south, we actually take it up a notch. It's the 546 line, and that continues to be north of the state of Georgia. So that is good news, and I'm continuing to keep an eye on that because that's always a pretty good telltale of where snow is going to fall, where the mix is going to be, and where the precipitation that's just going to be very, very cold is going to be. All right, I'm going to answer a few more questions, go over these last few takeaways, then I have to get on the air in about 20 minutes here to do midday. Let's see, are schools in Macon going to be canceled? That's where you're going to have to keep up with your Facebook pages. You're going to have to see what your superintendents say. I'm not in charge of canceling school. I'm just in charge of putting all this information out there so people can make their best judgment decision. But if you are looking for a list of school closures, we will be updating that on our 13WMAZ website. I know Hancock County's schools have already decided to go asynchronous for tomorrow. I do believe Middle Georgia State might have canceled class as well. The Macon School for the Blind also has made some cancellations. So continue to stay updated with that. We're keeping a close eye on that list all throughout today, and we will be updating it as we get information about potential school closures. So that is on our website at 13WMAZ.com. So we will have icy roads more than actual snow that sticks. Yes, obviously with the ice potential further to the north, icy roads are more likely than snow that does stick. It doesn't look like much snow is going to stick whatsoever, but maybe if we are pretty cool and we start to get steady flurry showers in the morning hours, we could see some of the snow try to stick to the ground. I definitely don't think it's going to be sticking to the roads. But the icy roads are probably more of a concern rather than obviously the snow accumulation. We could see maybe about 1/100th of an inch of snow possibly, maybe upwards to maybe 1/10 of an inch, and that's really stretching it, but I'm not confident in snow. The icy roads are more of a concern the further north that you live, but also still just looking out for those local areas that do have some puddles of water that may freeze over. You're going to want to be cautious on the roads, but I'm not saying widespread ice all over central Georgia. That is the furthest thing from what I am saying. Where is the low pressure system tracking right now? So right now it is tracking like that center of low pressure is going to go right through central Georgia, or maybe kind of cut us in half just in our southern corridor, that center of low pressure, maybe closer to the Tifton area, just a bit to our south. What I'm talking about is it moving further to the south right now. That's where it would start to cross northern Florida along the state line of Florida and Georgia. That's where it would have real implications for maybe bringing some more of that winter precipitation down here to central Georgia. But as it stands right now, it looks like that center is moving over somewhere here in central Georgia or just in our southern half. Frosty the Snowman will not be coming through town, unfortunately. I saw another news channel that stated you're still uncertain as to what the low may do and things could still change. Well, yes, exactly. We still are monitoring those changes, but another news channel does not speak for myself and the 13 WMAZ weather team. We're continuing to monitor that, and that's why I keep emphasizing these next probably 18 hours or so are going to be critical to maybe seeing some last-minute changes in the forecast, especially tomorrow morning when it actually happens. But the way the models have been going, we are pretty confident in what we have forecasted as of right now because we haven't seen much variation, and we continue to look at a bunch of different stuff that's going on, not only here, but all across the southeast in terms of meteorological features, temperatures, and especially tomorrow morning, we're going to be able to get some sounding. So those weather balloons that are going to go up into the atmosphere, that's going to give us a really good depiction of how warm our atmosphere is at certain layers. So obviously, if we have a warm layer maybe just above us in the atmosphere, somewhere around 900, 850 millibars, that's going to lead to a good amount of melting as any frozen precipitation does try to fall from the sky before it does get to the surface. So we are looking at a ton of different stuff. And like I said, we are very confident in our forecast as it stands right now, but we can see things change in the blink of an eye, and that's why we want to urge you to continue to stay updated. All right. I keep seeing a lot of questions about school closures. Continue to stay updated on our website at 13WMAZ.com. I believe our digital manager Justin Baxley put the link somewhere in the Facebook chat if you guys want to go look at that link. So just scroll through the comments, go look for that link, and that is going to give you the latest up-to-date information on school closures here in central Georgia. And obviously going to probably see some updates all throughout today, all throughout this evening before this actual event happens. So continue to stay updated with that. And a couple questions about Eatonton and Putnam County real quick. You guys are in that winter storm watch right now, so confidence is higher that you guys, compared to the rest of central Georgia, will see some more winter weather impacts. We're looking at possibly a little bit of ice accumulation up in the Eatonton area, the Putnam County area. So like I said, before going anywhere tomorrow, I would definitely try to stay inside if you are in the Eatonton area throughout tomorrow morning, especially until any of that ice that could possibly form does melt. But exercise extreme caution when you are driving out and about on Friday. But my best piece of advice is probably to just obey what people are telling you. If schools are closing and such, kind of follow that trend. Don't try to be out on the roads. Don't try to brave these conditions whatsoever, because it will be quite messy if ice is to accumulate up there. But you guys have a greater chance compared to the rest of central Georgia further down to the south to seeing any of these winter weather impacts up there. Not saying that's for certain. You guys are on this southern tier of this winter weather watch, and we're going to continue to keep you updated if that does get upgraded or if you guys get taken off as we go throughout the rest of this afternoon. Alrighty. So I've tried to answer a lot of questions. I went a little bit long. I have 14 minutes till I have to get ready for the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, what to expect. Maybe some flurry showers, but more so a wintry mix to start out that 5 to 9 a.m. window. Then temperatures are going to start to warm above freezing temperature, leading into a very cold rain for most of the day on Friday as it stands. Not seeing anything significant in the way of ice accumulations, but the further north that you are, have more caution if you are going to be out on the roads. So those northern counties, Jasper, Putnam, Hancock, Monroe, Jones, and anyone else kind of in our northern half. It could even stretch into Bibb just a little bit. Not saying that you're going to have ice accumulations, you just have a far greater chance as it stands right now. So continue to stay updated. I'll be live here at midday breaking down what the latest information is once again, and then Ben Jones is here tonight at 5, 6, 10, and 11, and he will have an even more up-to-date forecast. And like I said, once he's on at 5 and 6, my forecast at midday is out of date. So we're continuing to update as much as we can on digital, on our website, on our web stories, on air, wherever we can get this information out. So continue to follow my Facebook page, 13WMAZ online, 13WMAZ on air, 13WMAZ plus. Plenty of ways that you can continue to get the latest information with this. And if you are going out the door tomorrow, be sure that you tune into 13 WMAZ morning at 5 a.m. because we're going to be getting a very good idea of those current conditions before making your way out the door. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys coming up in about 12 or 13 minutes on 13 WMAZ.